Hi, my name is Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest announcement from Nissan regarding their post-Brexit future in the UK, or rather lack of it, as well as more general tales of woe from car manufacturing in 2021 if the government do not act quickly. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the car manufacturing industry in the UK is one of the ones that gets thrown up quite regularly in Brexit conversations. I suppose, there's a number of reasons for this. I guess it's largely because most of the industry takes the form of foreign investment. The only genuinely British manufacturers that produce cars are for the top end, beyond the reach of most of us. Also, right from the word go, Remainers tried to point out that car manufacturing would die a death if we left the EU. It would be decimated. And it wasn't just on the Remain side either. Sir Patrick Minford, who was the chief economic advisor to the Conservatives going right back to the days of Thatcher, was recorded a couple of years ago explaining to ministers that the government would need to abandon car manufacturing, as a result of Brexit. He says, don't even try and save it because you can't. Let it go. And this was before Boris Johnson and his very hard interpretation of Brexit. This was at a time when there was no such thing as a soft Brexit. That was never on the cards. But it wasn't looking as harsh as what we're looking at now. We certainly weren't looking at leaving the EU without a decent deal in the bag. And I say very hard Brexit from Boris Johnson. The scuttlebutt is that he's getting ready to fold any day now. Sometime this week certainly, but that's speculation. We'll have to wait on that one. I still think it's down to his backbenchers. Has he convinced enough of them? Or maybe he folded as this video was waiting to be published. Who knows? But I strongly suspect if he's got until the end of this week, he will take until the end of this week. But what I do know is that since the referendum, various manufacturers have made announcements of plant closures. It got so bad, so far removed from what the Brexiteers promised, because they promised that none of them would go, that they'd all remain. It got that bad that they started hailing any decision to stay as a major victory. Every time it looked like a plant was going to stay and it wasn't going to go abroad, they all cheered it as a great victory. It's like with our carryover trade deals, the one that have been copied and pasted from the EU. We're losing the vast majority of our trade agreements soon. Yet the Brexiteers cheer about the fact that we're not losing all of them. Oh, isn't Brexit brilliant? We're not actually losing all of our trade agreements, only the vast majority of them, as if that's a win. It's the same with the car manufacturers. Every time one said that they would stay, they held that up as proof that Brexit wasn't damaging after all. Never mind the line of plants getting ready to close their doors in the next 2 years. But Nissan was one of those who initially sort of said, we'll wait and see. They were wait and see. Then it looked like they were going to stay. They talked about plans to build a new car in Sunderland. But they were of the belief that we were going to arrange a deal with the EU in line with what was promised last year. Not for the first time, they believed the lies of a British Conservative Prime Minister. Now, even if Johnson does fold and we get a deal, it will still be a far cry from the deal that was promised. Nissan have basically gone, right, we're knackered. They're looking at even the deal that might emerge. It's no good for us. They announced last week that they have no plan for a no-deal Brexit. There is no plan B, they said. They said circumstances such as that would render their plant in Sunderland unviable. Now we've seen the announcement this week that a new electric car for the European market that was to have been built in the UK, no. It will now be built in Japan and shipped to Europe because this makes more economic sense than building it in the UK for the much shorter journey to its customers on the same continent. This is because although there are at the moment tariffs on Japanese built cars being sent to the EU, they are smaller tariffs than we are about to have on UK built cars. Plus those tariffs do disappear in about 5 or 6 years time anyway. And this doesn't just hit the people who have worked on that car. The wider implications are all too often overlooked. So not only do you have the snowball effect of removing the major employer in a town. So remember, that loss of a few thousand or even a few hundred sometimes jobs doesn't seem like that much. But then you think about their dependents, the people in their household. Then you think about how many fewer pay packets are going to be spent in the local shops and businesses. So those shops do less business. So they need to shed staff. So you have even fewer pay packets being spent. Some businesses will not be able to afford the drop in demand and just let a few staff go. They have to close altogether. They just go under. Even fewer wages being spent in the local economy. Then with fewer rates being paid, local services are hit. The council don't have as much money. So the town becomes dysfunctional. Services collapse. Pretty soon it's not a very nice place to be in. So those who can move away. Even fewer wages being spent, and with the migration being mostly out, not so much in, the local council's income drops further, the whole place goes to hell. If the government don't manage the situation very carefully, pretty soon you have a 1980s style ghost town. If the government actively ignore it, as this current one do, having no cares whatsoever for people outside their bubble anyway, I do not know what you will find. It could actually be worse than under Thatcher. But it isn't just about those lost jobs, as destructive as they are. It's the wider supply chain. People will lose jobs further afield because Nissan won't be buying. They're not going to buy parts in the UK and ship them to Japan to build a car in Japan to ship them to Europe. They'll build up their own supply chain in Japan. So the people who make the parts, the people who transport the parts, sell the parts, they all lose their income. They all lose their jobs. Job losses across the country increase as well. Unite, which is the largest union in the UK, is now worried that car manufacturing could be halted completely at some point in the next year in the event of a no-deal Brexit. We've seen recently that some car production has already halted as a result of difficulty in getting parts into the country. Now that has been caused because of the extra freight traffic as a result of intense stockpiling ahead of the transition period. But that shows where the big problem is. Even if we get a deal, there's a couple of problems for the car manufacturing industry, even if we get a deal. So supply problems are certain next year, come what may. A deal is certainly not going to include a common customs framework. We're definitely leaving the customs union once we've agreed the deal. So we will have delays in our supply chain. That will have an impact on car production. We've seen what impact it's already had. Honda and Jaguar Land Rover, I believe, already had to halt production for a short while because they weren't able to get the parts into the country. Now imagine you've got a more prolonged supply problem because of border chaos as a result of Brexit, deal or no deal. Of course, that will impact other industries as well. But without a free trade agreement, we'd then also be paying the higher price for those parts and having to effectively sell at a higher price because customers in the EU will have to pay 10% import tariffs on those cars. But the thing is, for car manufacturing, tariffs could still be applicable even with a free trade agreement because there's those rules of origin problems. Because bits to qualify as, it might well be that a British built car in a free trade agreement could be, tariff free, selling it in the EU. But what if it can't be qualified as British built because it's made from parts from elsewhere that we've imported in? So all right, people, well, we just need to make those parts ourselves. Factories don't spring up overnight, do they? And also, if it was efficient to have those factories in the UK, don't you think we'd have already had them there? Now, granted, the fact that, the tariffs and supply problems might make more of a case for doing that, but again, you can't do it that quickly. And we still have the problem of this taking years and years, by which time the industry is already on its arse. The latest government figures states that there are 856,000 people whose jobs depend upon British car manufacturing. That's the wider supply chain as well. Nearly 1 million jobs. And as a result, of course, again, you extend it, that's several million people that would be affected. Now, maybe some households could just about get by because someone else is working in that household and they didn't need both incomes, although they'll have to massively scale back their spending with the loss of that. Because bear in mind, the pay in car manufacturing in this country is generally above average. It's not usually bad rates of pay. So again, you've got to think about, even if that household doesn't fall prey to benefits itself, it's still going to be spending a lot less. That still has an impact on that local economy. Millions of people. Damaging, very damaging. But then you go back to Sir Patrick Minford, because what we're talking about here is a halt in production, not permanent, not the industry collapsing next year, but there will be times when it needs to pause production, just like Honda and Jaguar Land Rover had to do because of supply issues. But then you go back to Sir Patrick Minford. You can't save the car industry, he said, so don't even try. Chief Economic Advisor to the Conservative government. And jobs in this industry, like I said, are pretty well paid. So it's, you know, 1 million jobs in one industry is not always worth the same as 1 million jobs in another. This is worth a lot to the UK economy. A lot more than fishing, put it that way. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.